Everyone's talking about mental health awareness, but nobody's talking about mental health responsibility. We've created a generation that thinks sharing their trauma is healing their trauma. We've built a culture where your pain has become your brand and your struggle has become your identity. But here's what nobody wants to tell you. Your feelings are not facts. Your emotions are not emergencies. And your pain is not permission to make everyone else responsible for your healing. The moment you make your internal chaos everyone else's problem, you give away the very power you need to solve that problem. Stop asking the world to validate your pain and start asking yourself what you're going to do with it. Right now, as you sit there listening to my voice, there are people walking past your window who look perfectly fine on the outside, but inside they're drowning. They're smiling at strangers, posting happy pictures on social media, showing up to work with enthusiasm, yet behind closed doors they're falling apart. This is the greatest tragedy of our time. Not that people are struggling, but that we've been programmed to hide our struggles like there's something to be ashamed of. You see, somewhere along the way, society convinced us that showing pain is showing weakness. We learned to put on masks, to perform happiness, to pretend that everything is under control, even when our world is crashing down around us. We've become masters of deception, not to fool others, but to convince ourselves that if we look strong enough on the outside, maybe we'll feel strong on the inside. But let me tell you something that might shock you. This very behavior is killing your potential. When you spend all your energy pretending to be okay, you have no energy left to actually become okay. When you're busy maintaining an image, you're not busy building a life. When you're focused on what people think about your problems, you're not focused on solving your problems. I want to share with you the story of a man I met years ago. His name was Robert, and by every measure that society uses to define success, he had made it. Corner office on the 32nd floor, luxury car, beautiful house in the suburbs, family that looked perfect in every photograph. People would point to Robert and say, there goes a successful man. But success and fulfillment are not the same thing, and Robert was living proof of that truth. Behind his expensive suits and confident handshake, Robert was carrying wounds that went back decades. He had grown up in poverty, been abandoned by his father, struggled through school while working multiple jobs to help his mother pay rent. Those experiences had driven him to achieve, but they had also left scars that he never addressed. Instead of dealing with his pain, he buried it under achievement. Instead of healing his wounds, he covered them with wealth. The problem with this approach is that unhealed pain doesn't disappear, it grows. Like an infection that's covered but not cleaned, it spreads and affects everything around it. Robert's relationship suffered because he couldn't be vulnerable. His health deteriorated because he carried stress in his body that should have been released through honest expression. His children felt distant from him because they never saw the real man behind the mask. One day, Robert's carefully constructed world began to crumble. The economy shifted, his company downsized, and suddenly the external symbols of his success were threatened. That's when something interesting happened. All that buried pain came rushing to the surface. The same man who had been telling everyone he was fine for years suddenly found himself unable to maintain the illusion. The mask was slipping, and he was terrified of what people would see underneath. This is what happens when we build our identity on hiding our reality. We become prisoners of our own image. We start believing that people love us for who we pretend to be, not for who we actually are. We convince ourselves that showing struggle will make people lose respect for us, when the truth is that showing real human experience makes people connect with us. But here's what I've learned after decades of studying human behavior and working with people from every walk of life. The very thing you're trying to hide might be the very thing that sets you free. The pain you're ashamed of might be the pain that prepares you for your purpose. The struggle you don't want anyone to know about might be the struggle that qualifies you to help others through their darkest moments. You see, there's a difference between privacy and pretense. Privacy means you choose carefully who you share your struggles with and when you share them. Pretense means you deny that the struggles exist at all. Privacy is wisdom. Pretense is foolishness. Privacy protects your healing process. Pretense prevents your healing process. The cost of constantly pretending everything is fine is enormous. It costs you authenticity because you can't be real with people when you're hiding your reality. It costs you energy because maintaining a false image requires constant effort. It costs you growth because you can't solve problems you won't acknowledge. It costs you relationships because people can sense when you're not being genuine, even if they can't put their finger on what feels off. Most importantly, it costs you the opportunity to discover just how strong you really are. When you're busy hiding your pain, you never learn to transform it. When you're focused on making sure no one sees you struggle, you never develop the skills to overcome struggle. When you're committed to looking like you have it all together, you never learn what it actually takes to get it all together. Now, I want to shift your thinking completely about the role of pain in your life. What if I told you that the very thing you've been running from is actually the very thing that's been chasing you toward your destiny? What if the experiences that hurt you the most are actually the experiences that are preparing you the most? What if your pain isn't your punishment, but your preparation? You see, we live in a culture that has taught us to avoid discomfort at all costs. We take pills for every ache. We change channels when we see suffering. We cross the street to avoid difficult conversations. We've been conditioned to believe that a good life is a pain-free life. But that's not just wrong, it's dangerous. Because when you spend your life running from pain, you're also running from power. Every great leader I've ever studied, every innovator who changed the world, every person who made a lasting impact on humanity, they all have one thing in common. They were all forged in the furnace of adversity. They didn't become great in spite of their struggles. They became great because of their struggles. Their pain wasn't an obstacle to their purpose. Their pain was the pathway to their purpose. Think about it. The muscle doesn't grow when you're resting comfortably on the couch. The muscle grows when it's under stress, when it's being challenged, when it's being pushed beyond its current capacity. Your character works the same way. Your resilience works the same way. Your wisdom works the same way. The very qualities that make you valuable to this world are developed in the laboratory of difficulty. But here's what most people miss. Pain is not random. Pain is purposeful. Every challenge you face is developing something in you that you're going to need for where you're going. Every setback is setting you up for a comeback. Every trial is training you for a triumph that you can't even see yet. Let me tell you about a young woman named Maria, whose story will change how you think about adversity forever. Maria grew up in circumstances that would have broken most people. Her father left when she was 7. Her mother worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. They moved 17 times before Maria turned 18 because they couldn't afford to stay anywhere long. She wore the same 3 outfits to school for months at a time and often went to bed hungry. By the time Maria reached high school, she had every excuse in the world to give up. Her teachers expected nothing from her. Her peers looked down on her. Society had already written her off as another statistic. But something inside Maria refused to accept that story. Instead of being bitter about what she didn't have, she became determined to make sure other children would have what she didn't. Maria studied by candlelight. When the electricity was turned off, she walked miles to the library when they couldn't afford bus fare. She turned in homework written on the back of old flyers because she couldn't afford notebooks. Every hardship that could have destroyed her became fuel for her determination. Every obstacle that could have stopped her became a stepping stone to something greater. Today, Maria owns a chain of learning centers that have helped over 50,000 children from disadvantaged backgrounds get the education they deserve. She's written books that have inspired millions. She speaks to audiences around the world about overcoming adversity. But here's the most important part. None of that would have been possible without the pain she experienced as a child. You see, Maria's poverty gave her compassion for the poor. Her struggle gave her strength to help others struggle well. Her brokenness gave her the ability to help others heal. Her mess became her message. But more than that, her test became her testimony. The very experiences that hurt her the most became the foundation for helping others the most. This is the power hidden in your pain. Your struggles are not accidents, they're assignments. Your challenges are not coincidences, they're curriculum. Your hardships are not happening to you, they're happening for you. Every difficult experience is developing something in you that you're going to need to fulfill your assignment on this earth. But you have to understand something crucial. Pain by itself doesn't automatically produce power. Unprocessed pain produces bitterness. Unexamined pain produces anger. Unresolved pain produces resentment. It's only when you choose to extract the lessons from your pain that it becomes power. It's only when you decide to grow through what you go through that your suffering serves a purpose. The difference between people who are destroyed by their pain and people who are developed by their pain is simple: perspective. Victims ask, why is this happening to me? Victors ask, what is this developing in me? Victims focus on what they've lost. Victors focus on what they're learning. Victims get stuck in their story. Victors use their story as a stepping stone to their destiny. Your pain has been preparing you for something that you can't even comprehend yet. The leadership skills you're developing while managing your crisis will serve you when you're managing others through their crisis. The faith you're building while walking through your valley will encourage others when they're walking through theirs. The wisdom you're gaining from your mistakes will prevent others from making the same ones. Stop running from your pain and start running with it. Stop asking God to remove your struggles and start asking Him to reveal what your struggles are developing in you. Stop trying to fast forward through the difficult seasons and start extracting the treasures that are hidden in those seasons. Because I promise you this, on the other side of your pain is a power that you never knew you possessed. Now I need to make something crystal clear, because there's a dangerous misunderstanding that could derail everything we've talked about so far. When I say don't show your pain, I'm not telling you to become emotionally numb or to pretend that difficulties don't affect you. I'm not advocating for you to become a robot who feels nothing. What I'm teaching you is the art of strategic emotional management, the difference between processing your pain privately and parading it publicly. You see, there's a world of difference between hiding your pain out of shame and managing your pain with wisdom. There's a massive gap between being fake and being focused. There's a crucial distinction between denying your reality and controlling your response to that reality. The strongest people in the world are not those who never hurt. They're those who hurt deeply but refuse to let that hurt dictate their decisions. Think about a duck swimming gracefully across a pond. Above the water, everything looks effortless, smooth, elegant, but underneath the surface, those little feet are paddling furiously. The duck doesn't hide the fact that it's working hard. It just doesn't let everyone see the struggle that's required to maintain the grace. That's exactly what I'm talking about when I say don't show your pain. It's not about being dishonest. It's about being strategic. Every great leader throughout history understood this principle. They felt the weight of their responsibilities. They experienced the sting of criticism. They faced moments of doubt and fear. But they processed those emotions in private spaces with trusted people, not in public forums where their vulnerability could be weaponized against them or the people they were trying to lead. This is not about being fake. This is about being wise. When you're going through a storm, you don't need everyone to know about the lightning strikes. You need to focus your energy on navigating through the storm, not on giving weather reports to people who can't help you change the weather. When you're in a battle, you don't need to broadcast your strategy to your enemies. You need to conserve your strength for fighting, not for explaining. Here's what happens when you constantly display your pain to others. You actually weaken your ability to overcome it. Every time you rehearse your problems out loud, you reinforce them in your mind. Every time you replay your pain for an audience, you relive it in your emotions. Every time you make your struggle the main topic of conversation, you make yourself smaller in your own thinking. But when you choose to process your pain privately, something powerful happens. You develop internal strength systems. You build emotional muscles that can't be seen but can be felt. You create mental frameworks that serve you not just in the current crisis, but in every future challenge you'll face. I'm not saying you should suffer in complete isolation. We all need safe spaces and trusted people where we can be completely honest about our struggles. The key is choosing those spaces and people wisely. Share your pain with people who can pray with you, not people who will prey on you. Open up to those who can offer solutions, not those who will only offer sympathy. Be vulnerable with people who want to see you healed, not people who want to see you hurt. But in your professional environment, in your public interactions, in your leadership responsibilities, this is where you practice the art of silent strength. This is where you show people what it looks like to handle pressure with grace. This is where you demonstrate that circumstances don't have to control your character. When people criticize you, you don't need to defend yourself to everyone who will listen. When people misunderstand your motives, you don't need to launch a public relations campaign to set the record straight. When people attack your reputation, you don't need to respond to every accusation with emotional outbursts. Your response should be so measured, so dignified, so focused on your mission that it speaks louder than any defense you could offer. This requires incredible internal strength. But here's the beautiful thing. Every time you choose response over reaction, you're building that strength. Every time you choose dignity over drama, you're developing character. Every time you choose to keep your focus on your purpose instead of your pain, you're becoming the person your destiny requires you to be. The world is full of people who broadcast their every emotion, share their every struggle, and expect everyone around them to manage their feelings for them. That's not strength. That's weakness disguised as authenticity. True strength is taking responsibility for your own emotional health while still maintaining the capacity to help others with theirs. When you master this principle, you become dangerous to mediocrity. You become a threat to average. You become someone who can't be easily shaken, easily distracted, or easily defeated. You become someone who others look to for stability when their world is falling apart because you've learned how to maintain your composure when your world was falling apart. This doesn't make you cold or uncaring. It makes you reliable. It doesn't make you inhuman. It makes you someone others can count on to be human in the best possible way. It makes you a leader, whether you have a title or not, because leadership is influence, and nothing influences people more than watching someone handle adversity with grace and dignity. Silent strength is not about suffering in silence. It's about choosing your battles wisely, processing your emotions strategically, and maintaining your focus relentlessly. It's about being real without being reckless, honest without being destructive, and vulnerable without being victimized.
Here's a truth that will revolutionize how you view every difficult experience you've ever had. Your pain has a purpose that goes far beyond your personal healing. The struggles you've endured, the battles you've fought, the wounds you've carried, they weren't just random events in your life story. They were strategic preparations for your assignment on this earth. Every hurt has been developing something in you that someone else desperately needs. You see, the world doesn't need another person who's had it easy, telling others how to handle difficulty. The world needs people who have walked through fire and can show others how to come out without the smell of smoke on their clothes. The world needs people who have been broken and can teach others how to heal stronger than they were before. The world needs people who have faced their demons and can help others face theirs. But here's where most people miss the mark. They get so stuck in their story of pain that they never extract the story of power hidden within it. They become professional victims instead of professional victors. They turn their experience into an excuse instead of turning it into an education. They let their past define their future instead of letting their future redefine their past. The transformation from wounded to wise doesn't happen automatically. It requires intentional effort. It demands that you become a student of your own suffering. It requires you to ask better questions about your experiences. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Start asking, what did this develop in me? Instead of asking, how do I get over this? Start asking, how do I grow through this? Instead of asking, when will this pain end? Start asking, what is this pain teaching? Every painful experience contains multiple layers of wisdom if you're willing to mine for them. The surface layer might be obvious. You learned not to trust certain types of people, or you discovered you're stronger than you thought, or you realized the importance of certain relationships. But the deeper layers require more digging. What did this experience teach you about human nature? What did it reveal about your own character? What skills did it force you to develop? What strengths did it uncover that you didn't know you possessed? I want to share with you a story that perfectly illustrates this principle. There was a woman named Elizabeth who experienced childhood trauma that would have destroyed most people. Her father was an alcoholic who became violent when he drank, which was most nights. Her mother was so consumed with survival that she had little emotional energy left for nurturing. Elizabeth grew up feeling invisible, unwanted, and unsafe in her own home. By the time Elizabeth reached adulthood, she carried wounds that affected every area of her life. She struggled with relationships because she didn't trust people to stay. She battled low self-worth because she had never felt valued. She had anxiety because her nervous system had been on high alert for so many years. The easy path would have been to remain a victim of her circumstances, to use her painful past as an excuse for a mediocre future. But Elizabeth made a different choice. She decided that her pain would have purpose. She went to therapy, not just to heal her wounds, but to understand them. She studied child development to comprehend what had been stolen from her childhood. She researched trauma and its effects to make sense of her reactions and responses. She turned her personal healing into professional expertise. Today, Elizabeth is one of the most sought-after child therapists in her region. She has helped thousands of children who are walking through the same kind of trauma she experienced. But here's what makes her so effective. It's not just her education or her techniques. It's the fact that when a frightened child looks into her eyes, they see someone who truly understands their pain because she's been there herself. Elizabeth's clients don't just get therapy from her, they get hope. They see living proof that you can survive what they're surviving. They witness firsthand that your beginning doesn't determine your ending. They learn that the very experiences that hurt them the most can become the foundation for helping others the most. This is what I mean when I say your mess becomes your message. But you have to understand something crucial. Your message isn't your mess. Your message is what you learned from your mess. Your message is how you overcame your mess. Your message is the wisdom you extracted from your mess. If you just tell people about your problems without sharing the principles you learned from them, you're not helping anyone. You're just spreading more pain.
The process of transforming wounds into wisdom requires you to take responsibility for your healing, not responsibility for what happened to you. That might not have been your fault, but responsibility for what happens next. That is entirely your choice. You can't control what was done to you, but you can control what you do with what was done to you. This responsibility includes refusing to stay stuck in victim mentality. Yes, acknowledge what happened. Yes, grieve what was lost. Yes, feel the full weight of what you've endured. But don't build your identity around your injuries. Don't make your pain your personality. Don't let your worst day become your whole story. When you take responsibility for extracting wisdom from your wounds, something beautiful happens. You begin to see patterns and connections that you couldn't see before. You start to understand that the very qualities you needed to survive your hardest seasons are the same qualities that will help you serve others in their hardest seasons. The patience you developed while waiting for your breakthrough will help you counsel others who are waiting for theirs. The faith you built while walking through uncertainty will encourage others who are facing the unknown. But here's the most powerful part of this transformation. When you help others overcome what you've overcome, it completes your own healing in a way that nothing else can. There's something profoundly therapeutic about taking the worst thing that ever happened to you and using it to prevent the worst from happening to someone else. There's something deeply healing about transforming your pain into someone else's gain. This doesn't mean you rush into helping others before you've done your own work. You can't give what you don't have. You can't lead others through healing while you're still bleeding. But once you've done the work of processing your pain and extracting its lessons, you have a responsibility to share those lessons with others who need them. The world is full of people who are going through right now exactly what you went through years ago. They're fighting the same battles you fought. They're asking the same questions you asked. They're feeling the same hopelessness you felt. And somewhere in their journey, they need to encounter someone who has walked their path and found a way through. That someone could be you. Your story of overcoming could be exactly what they need to hear to keep going. Your testimony of transformation could be the hope that keeps them from giving up. Your wisdom gained from wounds could be the key that unlocks their breakthrough. But this only happens when you stop seeing your pain as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. It only happens when you stop asking, why me, and start asking, who needs what I've learned. It only happens when you stop being ashamed of your scars and start seeing them as evidence of your strength. Your wounds don't disqualify you from helping others, they qualify you. Your scars don't make you less valuable, they make you more valuable to people who have similar scars. Your struggles don't diminish your testimony, they are your testimony. The question isn't whether you have pain, everyone does. The question isn't whether you have wounds, everyone does. The question is what you're going to do with them. Are you going to let them make you bitter or better? Are you going to let them close your heart or open it wider? Are you going to let them end your story or become the beginning of someone else's breakthrough? Your pain has been preparing you for this moment, the moment when you realize that your struggles weren't random, your healing wasn't accidental, and your story isn't finished. There are people waiting for what your wounds have taught you. There are lives that will be changed by the wisdom you've gained from your pain. The process of transforming wounds into wisdom also requires you to develop what I call redemptive thinking. This means you begin to look at every experience through the lens of how it can serve a greater purpose. You start asking not just what did this cost me, but what did this create in me? You begin to see that even your darkest moments were developing qualities in you that you'll need for your brightest moments. When you embrace redemptive thinking, you realize that nothing in your life has been wasted. That season of depression taught you compassion for others who struggle with mental health. That financial crisis developed your resourcefulness and taught you the difference between wants and needs. That broken relationship showed you what real love looks like by showing you what it doesn't look like. That health scare made you appreciate every day and taught you to stop taking your body for granted. But here's what's remarkable about this transformation. It doesn't just change your past, it changes your future. When you learn to extract wisdom from your wounds, you develop an unshakable confidence that you can handle whatever comes next. You stop fearing new challenges because you know that even if they hurt, they won't destroy you. You know that even if they break you, they won't break you permanently. You know that every experience is either a blessing or a lesson, and both of those serve your destiny. This confidence becomes magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who have been through storms and come out stronger. They want to know your secret. They want to understand how you maintained your sanity when everything around you was insane. They want to learn how you kept your hope when everything looked hopeless. And when you share not just your story, but the strategies that got you through, you become a source of strength for others. Remember, your greatest ministry will always come from your deepest misery. The area where you've experienced the most pain is often the area where you have the most power to help others. The very thing that almost destroyed you becomes the very thing that God uses to deliver others. Your test becomes your testimony, your mess becomes your message, and your wounds become your weapons against the enemy of human potential. Stop hiding your scars and start sharing your solutions. Stop being embarrassed by your journey and start using it to light the way for others. Stop seeing your pain as your past and start seeing it as someone else's pathway to breakthrough. Because when you transform your wounds into wisdom and share that wisdom with the world, you don't just heal yourself, you become a healer for others.
Right now, whatever pain you're carrying, whatever struggle you're facing, whatever challenge is testing your resolve, I need you to understand something that could change everything for you. Your current position is not your permanent position. The pain you're feeling today is not the pain that will define your tomorrow. What you're going through right now is not where you're going to end up. Your present circumstances are not your final destination. You see, most people make the mistake of judging their entire future based on their current feelings. They look at their present pain and assume it's permanent. They look at their current struggle and conclude that this is all life has to offer them. They make decisions about their destiny based on temporary difficulties. But that's like trying to judge the beauty of a sunrise while you're still in the darkness before dawn. The breakthrough mindset requires you to understand that pain is always temporary, but the strength you gain from overcoming it is permanent. The crisis you're facing has an expiration date, but the character it's building in you will last forever. The storm you're weathering will eventually pass, but the skills you're learning to navigate storms will serve you for the rest of your life. This is why you cannot afford to make permanent decisions based on temporary pain. You cannot quit your dreams because of current difficulties. You cannot abandon your destiny because of present circumstances. You cannot throw away your future because your present is painful. The very thing that's trying to stop you might actually be the thing that's preparing to promote you. Let me share with you a principle that has guided me through every difficult season of my life. What appears to be working against you is actually working for you. That rejection that crushed your spirit, it was redirecting you towards something better. That failure that embarrassed you, it was educating you for future success. That loss that broke your heart, it was breaking you open to receive something greater. But you have to develop eyes to see this. You have to train your mind to look beyond the immediate pain to the eventual purpose. You have to learn to ask different questions when you're in difficult seasons. Instead of asking, how long will this last? Ask, what is this developing in me? Instead of asking, why is this happening? Ask, what is this preparing me for? I want you to understand something about the nature of breakthrough. It never happens when things are easy. Breakthrough happens when you're under pressure. Breakthrough happens when you're being squeezed. Breakthrough happens when you feel like you can't take another step, but you take it anyway. The very moment when you feel like giving up is often the moment right before your breakthrough arrives. Think about how a seed grows.
It has to be buried in darkness before it can reach toward light. It has to push through resistance before it can break through soil. It has to struggle against gravity before it can stand tall. The seed doesn't grow in spite of the resistance. It grows because of the resistance. The pressure is not preventing its growth. The pressure is promoting its growth. You are that seed right now. What feels like burial is actually planting. What feels like pressure is actually preparation. What feels like resistance is actually the force that's going to launch you into your next level. But you have to keep pushing. You have to keep growing. You have to keep believing that there's something beautiful waiting on the other side of this difficulty. The breakthrough mindset also requires you to understand that your response to pain determines your future more than the pain itself. Two people can go through identical experiences and come out completely different. One bitter and broken, the other better and stronger. The difference isn't in what happened to them. The difference is in how they chose to respond to what happened to them. You always have a choice in how you respond to your circumstances. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose what happens in you. You cannot control every external factor, but you can control your internal response. And that response, that choice you make in the midst of pain, that's what determines whether your pain becomes your prison or your platform. When you choose to respond to pain with growth instead of bitterness, when you choose to respond to setbacks with comebacks, when you choose to respond to attacks with advancement, you're exercising the most powerful force in the universe. You're exercising the power of choice. And every time you make the right choice in a difficult moment, you're building momentum toward your breakthrough. But here's what you need to understand about momentum. It compounds. Every right choice makes the next right choice easier. Every time you choose faith over fear, the next act of faith becomes more natural. Every time you choose hope over despair, hope becomes more accessible. Every time you choose to keep going when you want to quit, perseverance becomes part of your character. This is why your current pain is actually building your future power. Every day you choose to get up despite how you feel, you're building the discipline you'll need to lead others. Every day you choose to keep working despite discouragement, you're developing the work ethic that will carry you to success. Every day you choose to maintain your integrity despite pressure, you're establishing the character that will qualify you for greater opportunities.
Your pain is not random. Your struggle is not meaningless. Your difficulty is not pointless. Everything you're going through right now is developing something in you that you're going to need for where you're going. The leadership skills you're building while managing your crisis will serve you when you're leading others through theirs. The faith you're developing while walking through uncertainty will encourage others when they face the unknown. But you have to stop looking at your pain as something to get through and start looking at it as something to grow through. You have to stop seeing your struggles as obstacles to your destiny and start seeing them as assignments for your destiny. You have to stop asking, when will this end? And start asking, what is this building in me? The breakthrough mindset refuses to be defined by current circumstances. It refuses to be limited by present pain. It refuses to accept that today's reality is tomorrow's inevitability. It looks beyond what is to what could be. It sees possibility in the midst of problems. It finds hope in the heart of hardship. When you develop this mindset, you become unstoppable. Not because you don't face difficulties, but because difficulties don't stop you. Not because you don't feel pain, but because pain doesn't paralyze you. Not because you don't encounter setbacks, but because setbacks become setups for your comeback. So let me leave you with this charge. Stop showing your pain to people who cannot heal it. Stop sharing your struggles with people who cannot strengthen you. Stop looking for sympathy from people who cannot provide solutions. Instead, take that energy and invest it in your growth. Take that time and use it for your development. Take that focus and direct it toward your breakthrough. Your pain has a purpose. Your struggle has meaning. Your difficulty has destiny attached to it. What you're going through is not the end of your story. It's the setup for your greatest chapter. The very thing that's trying to break you is actually the thing that's going to make you. Your current test is preparing you for your next testimony. So don't quit now. Don't give up when you're this close to your breakthrough. Don't let temporary pain cost you permanent gain. Keep pushing, keep growing, keep believing, because on the other side of your pain is a power you never knew you possessed. On the other side of your struggle is a strength that will serve you for the rest of your life. On the other side of your current difficulty is the greatest opportunity you've ever had. Your breakthrough is not coming. Your breakthrough is here. It's in how you choose to respond to this moment. It's in the decision you make right now to stop showing your pain and start using it. It's in your choice to transform your wounds into wisdom, your mess into your message, and your test into your testimony. The world is waiting for what your pain has produced in you. Stop hiding it. Start using it. Your time is now.